Ek sal nou aan die kandidate wat aan my voorgestel word, die betrokke eredoktorsgrade verleen. I'll now confer on the candidates who are presented to me the respective honorary doctorates.
Professor van Heesteen, I have the honor to present to you Thuli Madonsela with a request that you confer on her the degree Doctor of Laws, honoris causa. The decision of Council and Senate to award her this degree has been taken on the following grounds. Advocate Thuli Madonsela's contribution as a developer and custodian of our constitutional democracy and the rule of law has ensured her a permanent place in the South African legal history, particularly as public protector since 2009. Her commitment to the Constitution, her integrity and moral courage represent a beacon of hope. Advocate Madonsela attained a BA Law and LLB degree, and is also trained in strategic planning, scenario and project management, as well as women's leadership development. Following her professional debut in education, she became legal and education officer at the Paper, Printing, Wood and Allied Workers Union. Various senior positions in government and civil society followed, including in the Department of Justice, the Independent Electoral Commission, and the Office for the Status of Women in the Presidency. Despite their distinct academic presence as human rights and civil activists since the 1980s, their threefold contribution to the practical establishment and entrenchment of our constitutional dispensation is truly what sets her apart. First, having been among the technical advisors in drafting the Constitution, Advocate Madonsela is regarded as one of the architects of our democracy. Secondly, she has excelled as a law reformer of note, updating the law and aligning it with our Constitution. Thirdly, and principally, however, her role as public protector has seen her leaving an indelible imprint on our legal and political landscape. Dames en here, vir advokaat Madonsela is haar taak as openbare beskermer om geregtigheid te laat seevier waar administratiewe ongeregtigheid was en rekenskap in die openbare magsuitvoering en beheer oor staatshulpbronne te eis. Met haar aan die stuur was die kantoor van openbare beskerming tot dusver aktief betrokke by sake wat oor die volle spektrum van die fundamentele regte in die grondwet strek. 'n Paar hoë profiel sake ten spyt word die meeste van die aangeleende weg van die media en uit die openbare oog hanteer om stilweg te herstel en stadig te probeer beding waar gewone burgers se reg op basiese lewensnoodsaaklikhede soos gesondheid, behuising en onderwys geskend is. Haar sukses hiermee blyk uit nasionale en internasionale erkenning. In 2012 is sy aangewys as Suid-Afrika se invloedrykste vrou, waarna die tydskrif Time haar in 2014 uitgesonder as een van die 100 invloedrykste mense in leierskapskategorie. 'n Lid van 'n klein, dog groeiende groep mense uit Afrika wat hierdie erkenning kry en hoop skep vir die toekoms van ons vasteland. Professor van Heesteen, I request that Stellenbosch University hereby honors Thuli Madonsela for her unwavering commitment to the Constitution, her contribution to eradicate discrimination through law reform, and her role as a fearless advocate for justice.
I hereby confer on you, Thuli Madonsela, the degree Doctor of Laws, honoris causa. We honor you. Thank you. Yes. Give this thing.
It's such an honor to propose a toast to Thuli Madonsela. Before I met her, I knew her by reputation only, as many of us do. And then you think you have an idea of a person. But when I met her, I was struck by various things simultaneously. I was struck by how calm and collected she is, how gentle and soft-spoken she is. But most of all, I was struck by how humble a person our public protector is. Can you imagine having the power and the authority and even being featured in Time magazine, and yet being so grounded and down to earth? It is really refreshing. To me, Thuli is the embodiment of the Lady of Justice, the Lady Justitia. That is that very well-known symbol that adorns our courts of law and our office buildings, the justice buildings. It's the woman with a blindfold, scales in one hand and a sword in the other. Now, a public protector has to be blind to the reputation and the gravitas and the authority of the person or the institution that she is investigating. That is the case because she has to be absolutely neutral and objective. And Thuli is that. She is focused and she investigates without fear or favor. She cannot be intimidated and she cannot be swayed this way or that. But in another sense, she's anything but blind because her eyes are open to the injustice. And so too are her ears because she listens to people, and her heart because she responds to people. Now, in her right hand, she holds the scales of justice, and that requires a delicate balance because a slight adjustment this way or that can tip the scale, so to speak. And in order to maintain that balance, she needs an interesting mix of technical skill, knowledge, experience, and insight. And she has all of that in abundance. But she's got something else as well. She's got the Constitution with the values of dignity, equality, and freedom to guide her. And that is the Constitution that she helped to formulate when she was part of the drafting committee. In her left hand, she holds the sword of justice. It's a two-sided sword, one side resembling reason and the other one justice itself. Now, fortunately, the public protector is not often called on to wield the sword, but if required, she can act quite forcibly. And then again, also very gentle when necessary. Thuli Madonsela is a wonderful inspiration, a wonderful role model for our sons and daughters, for our children, for our students, for our next generation. But let's be honest, she is an inspiration to us all. Thuli Madonsela is 'n ongelooflike inspirasie vir almal van ons wat hier sit. And if I say, for all of us, I also include the not so young generation anymore. Because as we grow older, more wrinkles and more grey hair, we need to be reminded of the things that are really important, the things we cannot do without. And she does that. She reminds us that in our country, we cannot do without leaders with integrity. And we cannot do without women and men, all of us, committed to a better South Africa. And we cannot do without children flourishing in an education system that works and holds a future for all of us. In short, we cannot do without Thuli Madonsela. We cannot do without a public protector that is true and steadfast. And all the other Thulis out there, men and women who follow her example. So please join me in raising your glass to truth and justice and integrity to our public protector, and now also a Doctor of Laws at Stellenbosch University, Thuli Madonsela.
Thank you, Professor Pinar, for that humbling introduction. I must confess, though, that I tried to look for myself in that introduction. And then I remembered what my friend Judge Dennis Davis said a few days ago, that at times an office makes a person. I also remembered what I learned in sociology when we dealt with the labeling theory, that when we label people in a particular way, they tend to try to be in that particular way. In that way, then, Prof, I do hope that one day I'll be exactly the way you described me. A program director, Professor Koopman, our acting Vice Chancellor, Professor Heidstone, all members of council, convocation, leaders of this university, and fellow recipients of doctorates, honorary and real. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, talking about that issue of real doctorates, Professor Pinar, Professor Vice Chancellor, can I now call myself a doctor? Why do I ask this question? 2 years ago, I was given an honorary doctorate by the University of Fort Hare. My staff asked me, can we now call you Dr. Madonsela? I said, no. I was told that when you haven't earned the doctorate, when it's an honorary one, it is in bad taste to call yourself doctor. However, when I walked in here, I saw that next to my name was doctor. I assumed that I've now been given permission to give myself to call myself doctor. I am sincerely grateful, humbled, and honored by the award of this honorary Doctors of Law by the University of Stellenbosch. Word cannot express the deep sense of gratitude that I feel as I stand before you today. It came very unexpectedly, and it is accepted with gratitude. I don't accept it just for myself, though. I accept it on behalf of a team of no more than about 300 men and women that work so hard that the country doesn't really know that it's only about 300 and so people. Thinks that we're a whole ministry as we should be. And it is they that work beyond the call of duty, and they treat every case as if it involves their grandmother. Whether it's a Gogo Dlamini case where somebody was robbed their pension money, their UIF money, workers' compensation, or a contract they worked for with the state, they deal with it with all they have got in terms of seeking to find the truth and telling it to the best of their ability. or a big case where money that should have been used to build roads, schools, provide laboratories for all schools, has been pocketed in one way or another. They give it their passion, their skills, and their time beyond the 8 hours per day that we pay them for. Thank you for this. I thought I would tell you just a very short story, though, about myself. When I finally, together with my team, get affirmations such as today, I am forced to just recall how I grew up. As a child, I always found myself different in many ways. And I recall when I worked, I think it was at Wits, or if it wasn't at Wits, I was in the Department of Justice. I got to a time where I started questioning myself. Why can't you just accept the status quo? Just sit and look at myself in the mirror and say, everyone is happy with things, whether they're going right or they're not going right. They're just happy, and therefore they fit in. They don't get into any trouble with anyone. But more than anything else, they look happy. What's wrong with me? Why do I always think differently? As I grow up, I found out that actually everyone thinks differently. And that difference is what makes the world go round. That the reason we have had the developments we've seen in science is because we have people like Professor Turok who have thought differently. The reason we have people today who have access to credit in a very open way is because among us we have people here like Dr. Michael Leroux, who decided to start Capitec. You can think of many, many areas in life, technology, people like Steve Jobs, that it has taken people pushing boundaries a little bit for the world to know that there's more to life than what we see at any given time. To all of those of us here who are graduating, I'm saying, embrace your difference, embrace your authenticity, and embrace your God-given talent, whatever it may be, and because that's your gift to the world. I can say, standing here, that I am a gift to humanity. I am God's gift to humanity. And so is everyone sitting in this room and everyone sitting out there. We only begin to harm humanity either by doing something wrong or failing to do something right and doing nothing when we forget that we are gifts to humanity. And that's why we're different from each other, because we each have to serve a different purpose. But those purposes are complementary. The award also has taught me one thing, not just this award, but all of the accolades we've received in the country and the world, is that at the essence of every human being is we seek what is good for ourselves, our families, our community. And we all would love to live in a happy world where there's peace and joy for everyone. But often we do things that take away that sense of humanity, that sense of peace, by acting unjustly. But in doing so, we're not alone. Governments too often deviate from what they signed up for. Not just our government, many do. Hence, offices like mine have been built into democracies. The first president of democratic South Africa put this very clearly when he said that even the most benevolent of governments have within them the propensity to deviate from the Constitution to deviate from the mandates they've been given by the people and to use power and resources to meet their own selfish needs. And then he said that is why we have built in our own constitution checks and balances to keep government on track. And he mentioned amongst those checks and balances the Public Protector Office. But he also, in a different speech, also mentioned civil society, including business and the media. Standing here before you, receiving this accolade tells me that together we can and are joining hands to create the country that inspired the Nelson Mandelas of this world, Helen Suzmans, Oliver Tambo, Robert Sobukwe, etc., to give their lives to this country. I believe we share the vision too that we bear the burden of repaying the gift to those who gave us this democracy in a peaceful way, to make sure that we don't leave this world worse than we found it, and we ensure that future generations keep building a better South Africa, a South Africa that is inclusive, where everyone's potential is freed and everyone's life is improved. And that South Africa requires a government that is accountable, operates with integrity at all times, and is responsive to all its people. And that country requires all of us to join hands. Thank you.